So I've been thinking a lot about spring and what it means to really like grow and change as the season kind of progresses, and not necessarily in like the big dramatic sense, but more so in a quiet, strange, and sometimes lonely way. Spring always kind of feels like it has a way of softly resetting oneself. Not a fresh start exactly, but just a gentle shift. And I feel like this is really a season that invites you to feel a little more and pay attention a little more. And so I kind of wanted to create this video about softness and slowness and the strange beauty of not quite knowing where you're headed, which is very much the headspace that I'm in right now. I'm obviously like going to talk about some books and fragrances and films, but I do also want to talk about maybe some things that have helped me, I don't want to say romanticize, but just make me feel a little bit more intentional in my life lately, especially as things have been so uncertain. So if you have been feeling a little bit lost or a little restless in this strange season of in-between, I hope that this video helps. The first thing that I want to kind of touch on is just being able to romanticize like being alone. I think there's something really beautiful about being alone when it's not framed as a failure and when it's chosen, when it's soft. I think sometimes we forget that solitude can also be good and romantic too, and being alone doesn't mean that you're waiting for someone to join you. Sometimes it just means that you're giving yourself the kind of attention that you usually reserve for someone else. And I do a very delicate dance between romanticizing loneliness and not enabling my introverted tendencies, because I like to be alone, and sometimes I try and do the opposite of romanticize loneliness. But I do think that there are times when loneliness is inevitable. We are in a loneliness epidemic. Every single person who I've talked to feels alone. And during moments when we can't really do anything about it in that very moment or, time, I think it's important to find ways to make things feel better for yourself to get through that period. I really enjoy like going to cafes alone and wandering bookstores by myself without any plan or intention of getting anything. I like dressing up and dressing down for no reason, just because it makes me feel more like me. And I'm not really trying to fill this space. I'm trying to make space for myself. And when I do these things, I feel like the loneliness softens into something else, something fuller and something kind. The next thing that I've been doing during this season is journaling, which is nothing new. It's nothing groundbreaking, and I don't share about it often because I think journaling has become so performative on social media, and for me it's very personal, and my journaling is not tidy. It's not aesthetically pleasing. It's dog-eared and scribbled and scratched and full of like half-finished thoughts. It's very like messy lists and strange metaphors and fragmented thoughts. And I think that if romanticizing journaling helps you to journal, do it. I just try not to feed into the performative act of journaling because it is such a sacred thing for me, and I come back to it over and over again because it makes me feel grounded in a way that nothing else does, especially during a time of uncertainty. Something else that I've been doing that I've very much been enjoying is this ritual of like tea and scent layering. I've started pairing teas with perfumes, and even if I'm not wearing the perfume, one of the things I love about fragrance is that like I love to smell things. Like even though I'm spraying a perfume, it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to wear it for that day, but it's fun to smell things that you crave. And I do it not formally, but intuitively. So like a floral tea with a soft citrus, or a jasmine tea with something smoky. And I think I'm just drawn to rituals that don't need to make sense to anyone but me. And it kind of feels like I'm building a language between taste and scent and mood, and really only something that I can read. It's small and rather insignificant, but it is significant to me. It's simple but significant, and it makes my days feel richer, like I'm creating a quiet world or universe just beneath the surface of an ordinary one. A world that smells like bergamot and musk and oolong and spring. I have very much been enjoying museums. There's something sacred about walking through a museum alone and moving slow and taking your time and letting yourself linger in front of a painting just because it pulls you into something wordless. It kind of feels like time pauses there, like the world softens around the edges. And I, for a long time, did not understand art at all, until I stumbled into museums like the Met, where I felt very connected, and you can't really explain why. And I don't really go to learn, I just go to feel quiet and to remember that people have been making beautiful things for centuries, and most of them have no idea that it would last this long. That kind of devotion really moves me, and I think being near it reminds me that art isn't always loud. It's just something that reminds me of the act of paying attention and noticing. The last little spring ritual that I have been loving are picnics. I love picnics during the spring and the summer, and not like big, you know, Instagrammable ones with matching blankets and cheese boards, though I do love those. But more the quiet ones, just like going to read under a tree with a thermos of tea and bringing a slice of cake in a napkin and sitting somewhere to eat it slowly. I think picnics remind me that pleasure doesn't have to be performative. It just has to be something that means something to you. It doesn't have to be shared or photographed or turned into something useful, which is something that I used to do. And I look back at those moments and I'm just like not everything has to be performative. And I lost out on so many like simple, intimate moments of my life, just feeling the urge to document it, which is kind of why I focus this YouTube at home, because it's just my space and I'm with myself, and I don't feel like I'm extracting anything away from my real life. So I don't know, it can just be soft, like a soft afternoon with the sun on your knees and crumbs of cake in your lap, a little pocket of time that feels like yours and yours alone. Lately, I've been watching these like very feral spring inspired films, and I'm going to tell you some of the ones that I've really, really loved recently. Daisies from 1966. This is a rewatch because it's one of my favorite films, but it's basically two girls decide that the world is meaningless and act accordingly. It's chaotic and absurd and wildly joyful, and it's just girlhood as rebellion. It's like spring with scissors, if that makes sense. The other one that I've been really loving is Picnic at Hanging Rock from 1975. And this is about girls who vanish into nature and no one can explain it. It's sun-drenched and eerie, and it lingers like a fever dream. It's really about girlhood and mystery. The next one is Tinkerbell from 2008. And this is a soft story about purpose and rejection. And I made a TikTok about the Tinkerbell fairies, like the fairies of Pixie Hollow as fragrances. And honestly, making that video sparked so much joy because you don't understand. These fairies raised me, okay? I love Tinkerbell. I loved the Tinkerbell games. I loved similar to how like the Barbie universe, not the new Barbie, the Dreamland Barbie has kind of like a cult following. I feel like the fairies have a cult following too, but anyways, if you haven't seen it, it's very comforting, cozy, and I don't know, but underneath it all, it's really just about being misunderstood and building your own worth. Silver Mist is my favorite. Okay, next, Atonement. I love that word. From 2007, this is about a lie, a lifetime of longing. It's drenched in beauty and guilt, and it's about how stories can save you while simultaneously ruining you. Also, Marie Antoinette, the Sofia Coppola one from 2006. This is a pastel, sugar-coated fantasy hiding deep under loneliness, and it's indulgent and isolated and quietly rebellious, but aesthetically one of the most beautiful films. It just makes you want to eat cake and sweet treats and drown yourself in vanilla perfume and wear the most beautiful gowns and kind of cause havoc. I've been rewatching Bridgerton. It's like, I don't know, opera gloves and gossip and pretty dresses. I don't know. I love Bridgerton, and I'm looking forward to the new season. It's just pure romantic fantasy, dressed up in florals and drama and romance. I always kind of have Alice in Wonderland on a loop during spring. It's whimsy meets existential dread. Alice really questions everything and nothing makes sense. Kind of like growing up. But I love the background of Alice in Wonderland playing on the TV while I'm just like working or studying or doing something else. It's very comforting in a strange way. Eric Romer's A Tale of Springtime is subtle and slow. The conversations are on a loop. The seasons shift and nothing is really said outright. It's just a film that kind of lingers in space, but very quintessential to spring. Yeah, that's pretty much been a lot of the things on my watch list. I've just kind of been wanting like feral, fun, spring, girly movies, and they've brought me a lot of joy. So if there's something else you recommend, let me know. Tell me what you've been watching too during spring. Didn't really get to do a proper like April TBR, but there are some books that have been on my nightstand that I'm looking forward to reading this month or whenever I get around to them. And this month I'm kind of slowing down on the existential philosophy and reading a little bit more literary fiction. I kind of find myself like every other month I'll be knee deep in philosophy, theology, things like that, and then I kind of pull back and I'm like, okay, give your mind a break, take a little reset, and then I find that helps me a lot. And usually like I'll always have a philosophy book kind of sprinkled into each month no matter what. Like this month I have Hume, an inquiry concerning human understanding, and then I have some other like more fun books that I'm excited to read. First is The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante, sorry. This book is feral. It's what happens when your life splits open and you stop pretending you're okay. It's brutal and unflinching and sometimes darkly funny in a way that makes you wince or cringe. The main character is left by her husband and she just unravels completely. She screams, she rots, she loses her mind, and then piece by piece she builds herself up again. So it's about abandonment, yes, but it's also about rage, womanhood, motherhood, and just kind of reclaiming your own hunger. I've been recommended this book a lot. I've seen a lot of creators who have really great taste recommend this book. I have not read any of Elena Ferrante. I have not even read My Brilliant Friend, which I have over here somewhere. I have not read the Neapolitan series yet, but I have heard really good things about it. If you have read it and if you think I would like it, please let me know. The next one is The Vet's Daughter by Barbara Combs, and this one kind of feels like a dream that you're not sure that you should have had. It's a strange book. It's deeply sad, but it's laced with this eerie, magical, and ethereal undercurrent. The main character is a girl who's trapped in a very oppressive, violent home, and she really starts to develop supernatural powers, but it's not clear like whether or not if it's real. So it's gothic and it's odd and it's tender and it's a little offbeat, kind of like watching someone escape through cracks of reality. The next one is the Helen Siswa Reader. Reading Siswa is like stepping into a storm made of language and feeling, kind of similar to Clarice Lispector, and she writes just with her whole body. Her philosophy isn't cold or detached. It feels like myth and movement. It's feminist, but it's also poetic and erotic and wounded and full of ancient and modern voices at once. And it doesn't feel like a linear type of read, and it's not really meant to be. This read is a good way into Helen Siswa if you're new to her books, and it's kind of like dipping your toes into something that will eventually swallow you whole, but in the best way. Next is Lolly Willows by Sylvia Townsend Warner, and this is a quiet, brilliant story about a woman who refuses to be what society wants her to be. She leaves behind the role of a dutiful aunt and becomes a witch, literally. But it's not really like a flashy type of cringy, cozy, witchy book. It's soft, which, by the way, I don't mind those, especially in August when I find myself yearning for October. But anyways, this is soft and slow and rooted in nature and solitude. It's about choosing a life of your own making, even if it makes you strange and a little weird. It's feminist without yelling and witchy without being witchy for the aesthetic. It's just a woman living in the woods with her thoughts and freedom and witchiness. The Lost Estate by Henry Alain Fournier. This is melancholic and golden, like a fever dream. A young man finds an enchanted estate and a mysterious girl and spends the rest of his life chasing that feeling of that brief moment. And it's about love, but it's more about longing and the impossibility of returning to the place where you first felt alive. It's deeply romantic in an old-fashioned sense. It's very lush and aching and a little bit tragic. Like I said, I have Hume in here. I also might read through the Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle. This isn't too heavy of a philosophy book, which is kind of why I might read this one too, but who knows? I don't even have time to read all of these, so I guess I'll just let my mood decide and see what carries me. It's, going back to, I seem to always misplace her, Elena Ferrante. Several years ago, I would say about 4 years ago, when I really started getting into like book talk. I've always been a reader. I got half of my degree in English literature, and I've never, for the longest time, I couldn't really find my taste. I wouldn't really allow myself to gravitate toward the things that I felt naturally drawn to because I was out of fear of being judged and just kind of not trusting my own intuition. And even on book talk, I kind of went through a phase when I was trying so hard to read what was popular or trending, and I lost all joy in reading. And so I feel like over the past 2-3 years, I really, really honed in my taste, and I, at my core, am a philosophy, classic literature reader. That is what I love so much. And I'm confident in saying that. but I think it is really interesting to explore well-written literary fiction. So this has been high on my list, along with some of these as well, so I'm excited to read them. Okay, it's time to talk about perfume again. So I have some crushes on some fragrances, and sometimes I get very obsessed with a perfume before I own it. Like, I'll smell it once and then it just haunts me. Like, I think about it for days. I read the notes, I acquire samples, I imagine what kind of person wears it, what kind of life it lives on someone else's skin. It's kind of like a slow falling in love, and it's not impulsive. It's just like deepening in a strange way. And I've learned not to rush it, not to buy it the first time just because it made my heart skip a beat, because the right scent will be there when I want to come back to it. And that was a very hard lesson that I had to learn, especially last year. But I feel like those types of scents aren't chased. Like, they want to be chosen, and I like giving it my time. I like testing it out on my wrist, walking around with it, seeing how it just lingers on my clothes and in my hair, how it mixes with my skin, how it makes me feel hours later. Kind of like dating, which I know nothing about, but softer. And so I keep it at the crush level, and I carry it, the little sample, in my bag, or, on a sweater that I'm wearing, and eventually I will know when it's real and when it's just pretty. Like, if it's just like a pretty scent that I like the smell of, but I don't really see myself wearing it, or if it's something that I want to add to my collection forever. But this has been a long, hard lesson that I have spent so many months like trying to master, and sometimes it's easier said than done. And let me tell you, I'm very excited to talk to you about these, because I have been thinking about some of these fragrances for months. And usually, like, when I have a fragrance crush, I will go out of my way to the ends of the earth to go to the department store or whatever store that I found the fragrance in, just to spray it and smell it and leave it on my skin and reminisce about it and think about it and then long for it. And I'm like, it gets obsessive. But I want to tell you about the number one fragrance that I have on my wish list right now. And this is like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm delaying the climax of this section of my video. I never used to be a floral fragrance person, ever. I have always been like woody, second skin, musky, androgynous, with some like sensuality and warmth in the undertones. But recently, I have been discovering some of the most beautiful floral fragrances, and usually on my skin, florals don't perform well at all. They usually get really powdery and get kind of like, I don't know, just not what I'm hoping for in a fragrance. But the ones that I've stumbled upon recently have just had the most beautiful projection, beautiful sillage, beautiful dry down ever imaginable. And what I've done also, sometimes what I find in florals is that they lack the woodiness that I usually love in a fragrance, like the woody freshness. And my secret to combat any of that is molecule. If I find a good scent, even if it's good on its own, but I layer molecule on top of it, it's like, it takes it over the top. Like, it's just absolute perfection. But anyways, let me tell you about my crush list. Okay, number one on my list is, and I have a little sample of it. It is Little Flower by Regime de Fleur. And you might be thinking, wow, I've heard of that scent. It's not anything new, blah, blah, blah. I avoided this for a very long time because, like I said, I don't do florals usually, except for Portrait of a Lady. That was like an exception. Little Flower by Regime de Fleur. This is the scent that started this whole obsession. It smells like someone thoughtful and elegant, someone who is just so beautifully well-spoken and ethereal, kind of like a flower fairy. So this is a rose, yes, but it's not like the sweet gourmand, like fruity kind. It just feels clean and overgrown almost. Like it is tangled up with black tea. There's Palo Santo smoke incense, some fruitiness, but not a fruity floral. And it smells like sunlit sadness. It has layers of like memory or something that you can't stop thinking about. And it has this very addictive quality that a lot of roses, I've never found that in a rose scent. And it doesn't just bloom all at once. It opens slowly. And it kind of reminds me of like a book that you keep rereading and over and over and over again because it's beautiful, but you also just want to make sure that you didn't miss anything. And I feel like this is the kind of scent that doesn't impress you. It doesn't try to impress you. It just, I don't know, like it walks in and expects you to fall in love with it, and you do. I'm sure you already know this, but Chloe Sevigny kind of partnered with Alaya from Regime de Fleur, who I've met in person, and she is one of the loveliest humans ever imaginable. And that I feel like gives it this extra like je ne sais quoi and special quality, just knowing that Chloe is like the it girl behind this scent. It's like, I don't know. Anyways, number 1 on my list. Okay, the next crush that I have is on Odette by Guma Mina. Odette is the white swan. They have another one that is the black swan. But Odette is like grapefruit soda, rhubarb, which seems to be trending these days in fragrance. But there's also tonka and rose, and it's fizzy and surreal and pastel and dreamy and wistful. Like waking up in a version of a life that feels like a dream. I don't know, it smells a little bit cold and sparkly and a little off kilter, but in the most enchanting way, like 7-Up poured into a porcelain teacup. And there's sweetness, but it's also restrained, and it's a little bit powdery, a little bit pearled, and a little sad around the edges. And it's the kind of fragrance that makes you feel soft and almost unknowable and aloof. Like you could literally float away if someone looked at you for too long. And this is another fragrance that is not trying too hard to be liked. It's just existing in its own beautiful, weirdly off-kiltered orbit. And I think that's what makes it so magical. Okay, next on my wish list, this is another one out of my comfort zone, and I'm so proud of myself. It's Lyra by Xerjoff, and I'm not a Xerjoff girl. I do not like most of their fragrance, but this is fragrances. This is the Casamarati line, and it reminds me of a lemon loaf cake in the spring. It's like a lemon loaf cake with a vanilla bean glazed that you poured on top of it after you brought it right out of the oven. It's indulgent, but in a very cozy and emotional way that feels like you can wear it during the warmer months. And it's like baking something sweet when you feel lonely. There's vanilla and caramel and lemon, cinnamon, but it's also, I feel like all of these have like a very slight twinge of melancholic comfort underneath them all. But it feels like someone who wears perfume even if they're not leaving the house, which is one of my favorite things to do because I love wearing perfume just for me. I don't know, it feels like weirdly authentic and comforting in that way. And yeah, it doesn't ask anything of you. It's not a scent that's like trying to be noticed. I feel like it serves a purpose in comforting you if you're feeling sad or if you're feeling lonely or if you're in the mood for something sweet. Okay, the next one is Manakara by Indult, and this is another one that I kind of avoided because I didn't feel like I could pull it off. It is a very beautiful, feminine, compliment getting type of scent. It just like kind of walks in and expects you to fall in love with it, similar to Regime de Fleur. And this is another sweeter rose, and there's lychee in this as well. And I think the only two notes, like if you look on Fragrantica, it's like lychee and rose, which is weird because I feel like when I smell it, it smells like a candied, lychee, I don't know, like it's sweet, but again, it's not super overpowering, but it just makes you feel like the most ethereal princess like in the world, which is not my vibe typically. But again, this is weird. I'm feeling very like, I feel like a part of me is searching for things that are going to spark joy because I have been so down lately. And all of these fragrances are like giving me that. And I think that's why I feel myself kind of clinging to these scents. But Manakara is by Indult, who also makes Tehota. And they're both such beautiful, high quality, long lasting, like, I don't like the word beast mode when it comes to fragrances, but that's like what people say when you have a fragrance that really projects and that people around you can definitely smell. So if you want to feel like an ethereal fairy princess who lives in a garden that wants a big sillage cloud surrounding you that will get you compliments, I do recommend Manakara. But as always, sample, smell first, try on your skin, do not blind buy. Okay, we have 2 more left, and these are more my style. So Jasmine Tea by One Day is clean skin, clean sheets, a warm mug held close to your chest. It's jasmine and oolong, but not perfumey. It's very quiet, and it smells like reading on a rainy morning in spring or walking through a greenhouse where nothing has bloomed quite yet. It's grounding and it's clear, and it's the exact right thing that I want to wear when I want to feel peaceful but present. I always find myself, this has been on my wish list, I think for 2 years now, and every time spring hits, I love jasmine, and very few jasmines perform well on my skin. This is one that does, and I always buy samples of this, and I think she's like ready for a full bottle because I always crave this. It's just beautiful, and it's one of the most beautiful tea scents that I know of. Okay, last one. This is a very recent crush. I own quite a bit of Diptyque, and this is another sleeper hit for me. But this is Eau Rose, the EDP, the Eau de Parfum version of Diptyque. There is something so tender about this one. It's like, again, like this is made of soft light and old love letters. Like it's rose, but there's chamomile, lychee, and an artichoke note, which sounds strange until you smell it, and then you realize like, okay, this is meant to be. It's not a flashy scent. It just makes you want to lean in closer, not to be like seduced, but to be understood. And this is one that I layered with Molecule. Oh my God. Like this felt very lethal to me. And I like, these perfumes are making me feel so pretty and beautiful. And like, I love that. I love that like fragrance can do that for you. Like, for example, today I've literally like, I've been up since like 4:30, running off 3 hours of sleep, was working, had class, like did all of the things all day long, had exams all week. And today I like quite literally went out and touched grass, went to a nursery, like smelled the most beautiful roses. And then I stumbled upon this and I was like, man, I am really craving rose. Like I want a rose candle. I want fresh roses. I want rose all over me. And then I just like tried this. I was like, why? I've never smelled this before. The Eau de Toilette is like meh. The Eau de Parfum, which is the darker bottles, like Diptyque can do no wrong. I'm sorry. If you are like new to niche perfumery, I don't think Diptyque is niche, but I think if you're wanting to like dip your toes into just really high quality scent, I highly recommend Diptyque, and try this out. If you're looking for something beautiful, springy, fresh, light, floral, pretty, ethereal, fairy-like, try Eau Rose. I also just feel like this is a part of me that is trying to be even more intentional with just living seasonally. Like we are in spring. I am craving florals, it is okay to go outside of your comfort zone and like indulge in things that make you feel more connected to the earth and the time of year that we're in. And it feels a lot more intentional, and it feels like ways that you can make memories to reflect back on during times when you really need to be comforted by like good memories from your past.